Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Worth Crowd podcast, where we talk everything sports. Lucas, how's it going, buddy? Doing all right today?
I am. How are you, buddy?
Not too bad. It's a beautiful Sunday. Just watched my little cousin play flag football. They lost 21-0. Great. Yep.
I
Love
just
it.
got done bowling, so
Did you win?
I did two out of the 4 games.
Nice. Lucas is a semi-professional bowler. In case anybody was wondering. Just kidding, not really. But he's actually a pretty good bowler.
Yeah, I bowled middle 2 games weren't good. They were actually horrendous. But I went 181 first game, and then it was awful. The next 2, I don't even want to say what the scores were because they were that bad. But then the last game I bowled a 226.
226? Hell yeah.
So
nice.
But yeah.
Well, sweet. All right. Well, also today, in case you are wondering, is the last day for the Tour Championship. Winner gets $10 million. Let's see who's in the lead right now. I haven't been following it today.
Is Fleetwood falling off the cliff yet?
Nope. Fleetwood is 17 under.
Hey,
he's in first.
Maybe this is the tournament he finally finishes it.
Yep. And then Henley and Cantlay are at 15 under. Scheffler's at 14 under with Cam Young. So maybe he can close it out today. He's been in contention last few weeks, so we'll see what happens.
The problem is you've got Scheffler still sitting only 3 shots back, but he's on 14 where Fleetwood's on 11. So that is
there's some scoreable holes at the end there. So if Scheffler takes advantage, it could get close. But yeah, we'll see. See what happens. All right. Well, this episode, we're going to talk a little more. I know we've talked about it the last couple of weeks, but we're going to talk a little more about the Colts' decision to go away from Anthony Richardson and stay on, go with Daniel Jones. Then Klucas is going to give his college football playoff predictions, and then we're going to talk about the SEC moving to a 9-game conference schedule.
About college football being back, bud.
I love it. Great. And that game,
Iowa State, Kansas State, great game yesterday.
In
Hawaii, literally with a quarterback that couldn't even walk and with a kicker who essentially had just learned how to officially kick on YouTube a couple days before, make a comeback and beat Stanford.
Wow. Well, good for them. I didn't know that.
And I was so much into the football spirit yesterday. I found myself watching high school football last night on ESPN while they were showing it.
Yeah, why not? But yeah, college this weekend coming up, back full force. There's a lot of good games on, so yeah. But let's get into the Colts here.
Yeah.
Finally made a decision going away from Anthony Richardson to Daniel Jones. I think it's the wrong move as a fan, but yeah, Klucas, what do you think?
So here's the problem. Yes, when I said, what was it, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever, I think it was a week ago when I said you go with Richardson for the simple fact of if it doesn't pan out like some people think, obviously like the coaching staff thinks, you suck. It's not good. You suck well enough to get a high draft pick next year, and you take a new quarterback, you restart, you're probably, if you're that bad, you're firing a GM, you're firing a coach, and you're going to take a new quarterback and you're just going to start all over. But if he hits, you have something to build off of for next year. Can the same thing be said about Daniel Jones? Absolutely. Can Daniel Jones, we have seen many of times where quarterbacks suck with certain teams and they change teams and now they've turned good. Look at Sam Darnold, for instance. I mean, it took Sam Darnold a little bit longer, but I mean, Sam Darnold went from, he was seeing ghosts with the Jets. He was awful in Carolina, gets to Minnesota, and now he was an MVP caliber player. Mm-hmm. So is it possible? Sure. And I would even argue to say Daniel Jones's time in New York, he was slightly better than what Sam Darnold was in New York when he was with the Jets. At least Daniel Jones, albeit he had Saquon Barkley, went to a playoffs with the Jets. So there's that.
You mean the Giants?
I'm saying no. Well, yeah. Sorry. With the Giants. Yeah. With the Giants, he went to the playoffs with the Giants. So, and then he jumped to the Vikings last year where. Did he play? No, because of Sam Darnold, but he was on a winning team, got to see as a backup, how to win, and try to make a playoff run. So is it possible that he could turn his career around in Indianapolis? 100. As a fan, am I going to cheer for that? Yes, only because at this point I've got to cheer for what we got. I'm a fan. I don't want to, unless they said we were rolling out Riley Leonard and they were telling us essentially, which, by the way, Riley Leonard looked pretty good yesterday in the preseason.
He did.
But if they said they were rolling out Riley Leonard, I'd understand the where we were going. We're tanking, essentially. And I would be all for the tank. But I'm making a move for Daniel Jones as a starter. You're not tanking. You're saying this guy gives us our best chance to win right now, and that's why you're rolling with it. And the problem is Shane Steichen, his first year with Gardner Minshew, somebody else brought this up too, saw a little bit of success with Gardner Minshew, and that he wants to get back to that. He wants a quarterback to run his system that's going to, if I tell you to throw a slant, you're going to throw a slant. Not this Anthony Richardson, I tell you to throw a slant, and he might throw the slant, or he may throw the deep ball for the receiver running the go route where the play is not designed for him, but he's going to throw it anyway. So he wants somebody that's going to run his system the way he wants, and he thinks Daniel Jones is going to do exactly that.
Which he probably will. Daniel Jones has a good arm. That's never been the problem.
He's still mobile, so it's not like he's a statue in the pocket.
No. He can use his legs.
Listen, his nickname's not Vanilla Vic for anything.
I've never heard somebody call him that. I'll be honest.
If you go on his Pro Football Football Reference page under nicknames, it says Vanilla Vic.
Really? Well, and like you're saying, yeah, like quarterbacks will end up finding the good fits, right? I think that matters.
Yeah. Fit matters in the NFL.
100%.
That's why I tell you, like with rookie quarterbacks, when we talk about draft and everything, like I tell you, this guy can be good in the right system. So meaning like your quarterbacks that end up being bad in the NFL, it's not because sometimes it is because they're just bad. Sometimes they are in offenses in college that are quarterback friendly, that you don't have to dive deep into certain things that you do in the NFL, and they simplify everything. And that's why some quarterbacks don't translate. But a lot of times it is your quarterback is very talented. Unfortunately, your system, your team does not fit what that quarterback does. Yeah. Like take Sam Darnold in New York. That team was never in a million years built for Sam Darnold. So, of course, he never worked out. Carolina was a dumpster fire. Of course, he wasn't going to work out. Now he gets to a structured team like Minnesota, and you see what he can do. I mean,
we'll see how he does now with Seattle.
Maybe Daniel Jones is the same way. Maybe, New York was a little bit of a dumpster fire. They got rid of Saquon. They didn't know what they were doing, and, he gets to maybe just attack. I mean, I'm not saying Indianapolis is structured, but a little bit more structured than what New York was. And maybe he can turn everything around.
Yeah, and I really think the same goes for Richardson. If this is the last time we see him in a Colts uniform playing, I think he actually goes somewhere and he actually has some success. Klucas and I already talked about this. We think like the Rams under Sean McVay, when Stafford leaves, is like, to me, best case scenario for the guy.
I think it just depends on what AR wants if he asks for a trade.
But yeah, it depends on what he wants.
Does AR want to be the best possible quarterback that he can be? If that's the case, I'd want to go to the Rams. I would try to finagle my way to get to the Rams. And
he's so young. He's only 23.
You're not going to get to play much probably for a year or two. And I understand that may affect him. But McVay's going to have him ready when Stafford's gone to take over that team. Now, if playing time is his, like, I just want to get out there and play, I don't, we can worry about the development later, then I think a team like Pittsburgh, where, yeah, you're still going to probably have to sit the year, wait out Rodgers, but Rodgers is done after this year. So you go to Pittsburgh and you can essentially try to take over next year. Outside of that, if you really start to think about it, like the league has been in such a, not the league, but like teams have been in such bad shape that a lot of teams already have quarterbacks. There's really only a handful of teams that don't have a quarterback right now that they could, like a team like the Saints, but they're going to, they pretty much embrace the tank. I mean, not saying that if they play Tyler Shuck, they're embracing the tank, but they're going to roll a rookie quarterback out there they drafted in the third round. They're pretty much telling you, if he hits, he hits. If not, we're taking for a high pick next year. So, but you start to look around the league, like in the NFC, like the Giants, they just drafted Jackson Dart in the first round. They're not just going to give up on him. You have Hurts, Dak, Jaden. You go on, you got Caleb, Jordan Love, JJ McCarthy's believed in Minnesota right now, Jared Goff. Like realistically, in the NFC side, the Saints and maybe the Rams are the only team that'd be looking quarterback just because of, and the Rams would only be looking for post Stafford. AFC. And the AFC side, outside of, the Browns, but, they just drafted Gabriel Shador. They're good for this year at least this year. They're going to roll with one of those four, if not a combination of all four at some point this year. Titans just got their guy. Outside of the Colts Everybody else, you could go to the only other team that I could see would be the Raiders, because I don't know how long Geno is going to be in Las Vegas. So it could be another like Pittsburgh situation where you go sit for a year or two, and you can play for Vegas. But outside of that, a lot of teams already have their quarterback. And so that's going to be, so if I'm Richardson, I'm looking at what gives me the best chance to develop. Is it LA? I can finagle my way to LA. I look at Pittsburgh's history with developing quarterbacks, and it's not the greatest. So, like I said, unless playing time is your end all be all, I would not want to go to Pittsburgh. So, I mean, yeah, it's just where do you want what does Richardson want out of this?
I mean, because the flip side of this is also Daniel Jones just sucks still, and they end up going. They throw Richardson back in,
or he gets hurt,
or yeah. I mean, Richardson's going to come back in and play. Leonard's a rookie, and he doesn't know the offense as well.
Yeah, so I mean,
yeah,
that's the other thing is
he's not done. His NFL career is not over.
Maybe does Richardson wait it out and see? Does he wait the whole year out in Indianapolis? See if we clear house with a GM and a head coach. See what kind of coach they bring in and decide, does this head coach want to buy into me and try to actually help me? But the problem with that is when new GMs step in, their mindset is with certain players is, well, I didn't draft this guy. I didn't sign this guy. So I have no ties to him. I don't care. That's the flip side of kind of waiting out the GM and everything is when news guys come in, well, I didn't hire you. So I have no ties to you. I really don't care if we cut you or not.
Yeah, and ultimately, Steichen and Ballard are kind of both playing for their jobs a little bit because Steichen's his seat's warming up. I'm not saying he's on the hot seat, but he's got his heaters on his car.
See, to me,
right there,
I wouldn't, even with a bad season, I wouldn't fire Steichen.
No,
I wouldn't fire Steichen. But there was a video I saw today. And this tells me a lot, too. It was after their preseason game yesterday. Steichen was talking to the guys in the locker room. And, the camera guy was kind of panning around the whole room while Steichen was talking. There were a lot of players disengaged. And that kind of tells me a lot of, you don't have the locker room. So now my question is that you? Or does the locker room want Richardson and they're not happy that you went with Daniel Jones? And they're, it's kind of like they're disengaged because of that. So now that factors in. But again, if you keep a coach, it's the same thing as I talked about with players. New GM comes in. He has no ties to you. He didn't hire you. He don't care. So,
yeah, Ballard's definitely on the hot seat. That dude,
regardless of what the record is, if they don't make the playoffs this year, I think Ballard's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, they could be 10-7, miss the playoffs because, the AFC actually had a good year and they just missed the play. I don't think Ballard keeps his job. It's playoffs or nothing.
New ownership with the kids taking over for Ursay.
They don't really have ties. And I've already heard rumors that the kids are considering selling the team.
Oh, I haven't heard that.
But it wouldn't be like anytime soon. It would still be like 3-4 years from now.
Pat McAfee.
But
go gather some investments.
McAfee, hey, you want to get back in good graces with Peyton, sell it to Peyton.
Well, they can find some people to buy the team. That wouldn't be
but yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just going to depend on a lot of different things. But again, I think it's playoffs or nothing for Ballard. He's got to go.
Yeah. He's been here enough to get a winning team together.
And here's the thing. And if you look at teams that succeed outside of like Howie Roseman was for the Eagles was established already essentially. When you hire this GM Indianapolis, go get one of these young guys that are just that are looking to get in, but are young and know what these younger talent, what these players want, and then an upgraded. Don't go get somebody that's old and out of date. Get somebody that's young, up to date with a lot of different things and is hungry, like you said. And watch this team turn around. I forget who said it the other day, but they were talking about the Richardson Jones quarterback debate and how they just picked Daniel Jones, and he was like, I don't think people realize that this Colts roster is a top 10 roster in the NFL, but we don't see it that way because of who's at quarterback.
It's there offensively.
If you go to anybody off the streets and go, the Colts have a top 10 roster in the NFL, they laugh at you. But you don't realize when I go down the line, like we did with when I went over like who's got the best roster when I ranked them. Like if you look, JT, Pro Bowl level running back. You got Pittman and Downs, Pro Bowl level potential, receivers. Warren, Pro Bowl level tight end. Quentin Nelson, Pro Bowl level O lineman, along with Bernard Raymond at left tackle. Pro Bowl level linemen. Buckner and Grover Stewart, Pro Bowl level D lineman. Zaire Franklin, Pro Bowl level linebacker. You've got now Travarius Ward back there, along with Kenny Moore, and now Cameron Bynum and Nick Cross, who are all Pro Bowl. You've got Pro Bowlers at every position on the field, potential Pro Bowlers. You just got to figure out the quarterback position.
Oh, we're so close, man.
And the problem is, it's a somewhat good problem to have when you have all the other positions filled out. But the problem is the quarterback position is the most important position.
Well, and they're running out of time. These guys are not going to play at that level forever.
Right.
So
And they're not going to stick around and wait for you to figure it out.
Yeah. They want to get paid. They don't, obviously, they want to win.
And that's what makes me mad, because we are wasting prime Jonathan Taylor years.
Man. And he's so good.
Like,
that dude's a top 5 back.
Jonathan Taylor, is a top 5 running back in the NFL. And we are wasting having him in his prime years figuring out this quarterback.
I'm glad they paid the guy, because that was close. We were close to losing him too.
Yeah. And Pittman is coming up on his contract ending. So you got to make a decision there. Alec Pierce is a free agent next year. You got to make a decision on him, which, if you're going to re-sign, if you're not going to re-sign Pittman in a couple of years, then you got to re-sign Alec Pierce. If you're going to re-sign Pittman, I'm okay with letting Pierce go, just because you have Adonai Mitchell and you can draft somebody else. But yeah, I mean, you got a lot of decisions coming. JT's coming up on. I mean, it sounds weird, but JT's coming up on a contract as well. Quentin Nelson and Bernard Raymond and all them are coming up. They probably want to stay realistically, but you got to figure this out.
Yeah. Yep.
And then the other thing is, I'm so as Colts fan, I get it. We're saying we're tired of talking about it because we were blessed. Let's be real.
Oh, for a long time.
From the time we were born, Doug, and the time we started watching Colts football, we were blessed with Peyton Manning, and then essentially we went a year, but essentially going straight from Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck to now we're the Cleveland Browns and just rotating quarterbacks,
just left and right.
I mean, it's
So
yeah, are we a little pampered and everything from having that? Sure. But to me, going from, you have 3 all-time great quarterbacks where you've had Unitas in your franchise, you've had Manning, you've had Luck, that should be your standard.
Yeah. Yeah, and you go from the Super Bowl caliber, and Luck even went to some AFC Championship games. Colts were a winning team for a long time, and then they're nothing. Just dropped down to nothing after he retires.
Dude, and let me tell you, somebody did an interview with Andrew Luck the other day, and they were asking him, would he still be playing? If he had not retired, would he still be playing today? You know what his answer was, Doug? He goes, until I came up with that decision to retire, my plan was to play until I was 45.
Holy shit.
He wanted a Tom Brady-like career.
And he would have had it. If they would have protected the guy, he would have had it.
And that made me want to punch this wall behind me. Because I'm like, the Colts fucked that up.
Yeah. Who was the GM then?
That was Grigson. Good old Ryan Grigson.
Yeah, Grigson. God, dude.
But, dude, you had an all-time great quarterback and could not support him with a run game or an offensive line. And then we finally get Ballard in. And I think Ballard would have been good under the Luck regime, because he would have been saved a lot of times from just having Andrew Luck. A lot of GMs are saved from bad decisions or whatever, because of, they have great players or a great quarterback that kind of hides everything.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody talks about, if you sign a receiver to a large contract and he doesn't have a great year, well, they don't talk about it if you go to the AFC Championship or Super Bowl. Nobody cares. But under Luck, Ballard would have been great. Because if you look at all the other moves he's made outside of just trying to choose a quarterback, it's been relatively good.
And he's drafted well.
So I just don't understand why he can draft well everywhere else and find these gems of Jonathan Taylor and Josh Downs and Michael Pittman that he's drafted in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round, but we can't figure out a quarterback.
I don't know, dude.
Or you can't hire somebody to figure out a quarterback for you.
Yeah, that's another thing too. We had a lot of good coaches come out there through the years too. That didn't work out.
Yeah,
but that really should have. But yeah. Anyway, so let's move on to the next one. Let's move on to college football. Let's talk about the SEC moving to a 9-game conference schedule.
It's about time.
Yeah, this was coming no matter what. So
it's about time. And not only are they going to a 9-game conference schedule, they are now required as one of their 3 non-conference scheduled games to play an ACC, Big 10, a Big 12, or Notre Dame. So no more scheduling Mercer in November. So now, for certain schools, Georgia plays Georgia Tech every year. That game solidified. That's their ACC game. So that game doesn't matter. They're not going to see Georgia. Georgia has been known to schedule like teams like Clemson and stuff like that. So they still may schedule somebody else. But, your Alabamas of the world, they're going to schedule, we'll just go play Purdue and that's it. But I will thoroughly enjoy, and they said they're going to be home and home. They're not going to be neutral site games. So I would love to potentially see. Now, if you could make it work, like Alabama always has that non-conference game right before the Auburn game in November. I would love if they can make the schedule work where Alabama has to travel to Boulder, Colorado to play Dion in Colorado late in November.
I mean, nothing's off the table, right?
I would just I want to know what these kids would feel like going to Minnesota in November or Illinois in November, Ohio State in November. Let's make these SEC teams go to the cold. I want to know how they would
calling out the South here.
Well, I mean, we saw how Tennessee reacted in the cold. They tried to go out without shirts on and act like they were all big and bad and got their ass handed to them. So, I mean, I just want to see it just because you don't see it ever. So, I mean, if you've got a Florida high school recruit that's played in Florida his whole life, goes to Alabama, you're not going to play a cold game. So how do you react in the cold? Look at how much it's affect Tua in the NFL. Tua went from being a Hawaiian kid to playing in Alabama. Kid's never played a cold game in his life. And now you wonder why when it goes anything below 50 degrees, he can't perform. He's never played in these conditions. So, I mean, yeah, it like I joke about it. Like I want to see it because like it's a joke, but like it's also serious. Like this is what happens if you're like Tua, a Hawaii, or again, a Florida kid, you go to Florida, you don't play any cold games and now you get drafted by the Bears.
A lot of cold games there.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of cold games there, buddy. Like I think if you prepare yourself in college and play at least one cold game at some point in college, now you're better prepared for it in the NFL. So I think that would help with preparation. But again, I know so many people that are fans of whoever in the SEC that were like, "This is stupid that we're having to play non-conference games now." And I'm like, "Yeah, you are now just like every conference in America except for 2 now that plays 9 conference games. So be it." And the reason why they didn't want to do it, and I understand their reasoning, they're like, well, we already play a tough schedule because of who we play. True, but the reason why they didn't want to add another conference game is for that reason, because you're potentially now adding another loss having to play another SEC school. So, I mean, that's another reason why they didn't want to do it. So what's been a benefit for your conference of being so strong has also been the downfall of you not adding that 9th game. So, I mean, yeah. So now if you talk about, Alabama loses 2 games and now you got to go play that extra conference game. If that extra conference game is against, Texas A&M, who you probably wouldn't have had to play that year, but now you do because of the extra conference game. I mean, oh well. But the downfall of this is going to be because the NCAA and everybody's so SEC centric, is that you're probably going to see, because they add that extra SEC game next year, you'll see a 9-3 SEC team make it over a 10-2, 11-1, like Big 10, Big 12 team. You watch.
That's tough to swallow.
You watch, and it's going to happen because they're going to be like, well, I mean, if their strength of schedule, that's going to be their argument.
Yeah.
Because they added that extra game. Because if, say Alabama loses 3 games, but their 3 games they lose are, let's just say Texas, Georgia, and LSU in a season, well, they're going to be like, well, those aren't bad losses. Versus, let's just say Texas Tech goes 10-2, but their 2 losses are to, 8-4 Baylor and 5-7 Colorado or something like that. They're going to be like, well, look at their losses and look at their losses.
Yeah. Oh man, that's going to spark up some controversy. Just can't wait to see it.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
this starts next year, right?
Yeah, as of 2026 is what it said. Yep. So it's as of next year. So between, say, you have to reschedule a bunch of SEC schools. And so some of the, I shared this with you yesterday. Some of the, now this isn't official, obviously, but some of the like SEC annual opponents have been predicted. So like who each SEC school would play for sure every year. Hold on, give me 1 second. That's not what I wanted. Where's it at? Right, I guess we're not gonna pull up. So, but like some of them, like Kentucky, for instance, I'll just go through some of these. Like Kentucky, it says annual opponents they'd have to play every year is Georgia, Mississippi State, South Carolina. Like I feel like you're losing a rivalry every year of Tennessee and Florida, But Kentucky gets, I think, the better end of the stick on that, getting to play Mississippi State every year for one. And then, I mean, South Carolina's good now, but, are they going to be good consistently every year is going to be the question. But, like, you look at Alabama, like, their annual opponents on here, Auburn, Tennessee, LSU.
Yeah, yikes. That's tough.
LSU gets Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas A&M. Tough. Oklahoma. I mean, even Oklahoma. I mean, Missouri, Florida, Texas. Not easy. Texas gets Texas A&M, Arkansas, Oklahoma, which, I mean, Oklahoma's been so up and down here recently, and then Arkansas just kind of stinks. But, under the right coach, they probably could get back up. Oh, here it goes. Now it wants to pull up. Let's do green. So there you go. So that's predicting pretty much annual opponents for every SEC school if you just want to kind of take a glance. Like I said, I think Alabama gets the shit end if this is true. Because it's like you get Auburn, Tennessee, and LSU. Florida gets Georgia, Tennessee, Oklahoma. That's not easy. So it just gives you a little preview of because you have 3 set schools that you're going to play every year. And this obviously protects rivalry. So like Texas, Oklahoma's protected, Alabama, LSU. But then me and you had the discussion, well, then what about like Kentucky, Tennessee, and Kentucky, Florida? Those are rivals. Why aren't they protected? They're not drawing money. That's the problem. If they can save, Alabama, LSU every year and Texas, Oklahoma, they could give 2 shits less about Kentucky, Tennessee. So that kind of gives you the projected annual breakdown for them. So, but yeah, I'm interested to see how much does this affect not only SEC schools, but what does it do? Like I said, for college football playoffs, do we see more 9-3 SEC teams get in over 10-2 and 11-1 teams?
Probably, but I think that's unfair. A little bit, but it is what it is. These other conferences need to schedule more harder games.
I mean, yeah, but we're also going to see a bunch of teams jumping, like teams from the ACC jump in, and they're going to jump to different conferences. I think we're eventually going to get to a point where it's just the SEC and Big Ten, basically. So
maybe Big 12,
but
maybe.
The problem is they're not going to be able to compete. And I think if you get to where we essentially eliminate the ACC almost, and we just have SEC, Big 10, Big 12, you're going to see that's when we're going to see the SEC and Big 10 trying to, divert themselves from the NCAA and create something else. So, but that's a whole topic of conversation for another day. So, yeah. The only thing I hope is if they do like ACC like splits and like they like Clemson and North Carolina and all them who have been already talking about jumping conferences jump. Let's make it make sense, people, because I kept seeing the report the other day that Clemson, UNC, and Miami and some other schools were already in talks about moving to the Big Ten. Why? Why the Big Ten? Why? Because if I'm a school like Rutgers, why should I have to potentially have to play 1 week, a home game at Rutgers, which is in New Jersey, by the way, then have to go play a road game at UCLA all the way cross country in LA, and then have to play a road game at Miami and come all the way back to the most southern point of the USA. So why not just let's make it make geographical sense? Put Miami, Clemson, North Carolina in them. If they're going to jump conferences, guess what? You got to go to the SEC. Sorry. But you go down there with the rest of them because it makes more sense for the schools like Louisville, Virginia, Virginia Tech, Boston College to join the Big Ten if they're going to leave because they're all already right there. It makes more geographical sense.
Well, now ACC does that kind of already. So you're standard teams because when they added California, Stanford, and SMU, now these teams are traveling a lot further.
No, yes, and just like the Big Ten already is, because like with Rutgers, you could have to go play at Rutgers, at UCLA, at Oregon. Like, I mean, it is what it is. But I'm saying if we're going to realign conferences like this, then let's make it make more geographical sense.
Yeah, that's cheaper and easier on the players.
Which is my point of just it makes more sense for like Louisville and Georgia Tech and all.
Yeah, it does.
Or Virginia Tech, sorry, to go to the Big Ten, because if I'm already having to go all the way to LA to potentially play UCLA, don't make me also have to potentially go all the way down to Miami.
Right.
Like I'm already having to go one way. Don't make me go the other. So that's my point. But moving forward on the topic of college football. So here we go. We're going to do my college football playoff bracket. Doug, I know you don't have a bracket at all, but if you just want to maybe at the end just kind of give me like who you think is going to be like in the Final Four or national champion while I'm doing this, if you want to think about it at the end. But so let's go back to this real quick from what we've been keeping up with. So this has been what we've kind of been keeping up with. Who was the locks to be in the playoff? and who was kind of on the fence of, do they make it, do they not? So let's remember those teams. All right, so my official 12-team playoff, if I can get out of this, so I guess I got to leave this first. Hold on. So my official 12-team playoff looks like this. So as the 1 seed, I have Ohio State undefeated. I think after they beat Texas at the beginning of the year, they jumped to 1. They finished the year undefeated. They stay number 1 all year. All right. So 2, Clemson, kind of along the same lines. Right now, I think they're 4th in the polls. If they go undefeated, everybody else loses. Clemson and Ohio State, and then Notre Dame is the only teams I have undefeated. But they would just jump up. Clemson, Ohio State right there at the top. So then I go 3 seed. So this is how I kind of went through the rest of them. So 3 seed was obviously, if the SEC is not 1 or 2, the SEC champion was probably going to be the 3 seed, no matter what. So LSU, who I have winning the SEC, jumps to 3. So from 4 on, I kind of used what the NCAA has told us. They look at strength of schedule, right? So when I picked the rest of these teams, I went to, okay, so yeah, sure, strength of schedule between now and the playoffs is going to change. But what's the strength of schedule right now? So that's how I kind of based the rest of these rankings, was just off your strength of schedule. And remember, this is straight seeding format this year. There is no all 4 conference champions get the top 4 seeds this year. So Texas, based off strength of schedule, goes to 4. At the 5, I have Penn State, who was, I think I had them, 11-2? Yep. At the 6th seed, you got Georgia, who was 10-2, who was on the fence, but they jump in because of their strength of schedule. 7, I've got Nebraska at 11-1. They actually have a pretty high strength of schedule this year. Even as easy as the schedule looks, according to ESPN, their strength of schedule looks pretty good. 8, Notre Dame, just again, strength of schedule, even though they finish undefeated, but we're looking at just your strength of schedule. They go to 8. 9, Arizona State, who I have winning the Big 12. 10, Alabama. 11, Oregon. And then 12, Boise State, who gets the Power 5 group in. So Oregon was the last iffy team on the bubble that kind of got in, and they just barely got in over Washington. Oregon's strength of schedule ranked was 22. Washington's was 33. So was kind of close on that one. So this sets up Boise State having to go to Penn State for first round matchup. Arizona State has to go to Notre Dame. So here we go. Warm weather team having to go play in the cold in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Oregon at Georgia, which will be a Dan Lanning returning back to Georgia. So there's their story there. And now I get Alabama having to travel to the cornfields of Lincoln, Nebraska to have to play Nebraska in a playoff game on the road. Which, by the way, let's state, I think there should be home playoff games up until the Final Four. So I think the first round bye teams should get an opportunity to play a playoff game. So I think the only way we start playing neutral site is once you make the Final Four and national championship. Then we go to neutral site. It's the way it should be, because it's not fair. I mean, it's not fair. Sure, you're getting a lot of money. I'm not saying the money's not fair or anything for just making the playoffs, but that the 5, the 5, 6, 7, 8 seed get home playoff games, but the 1, 2, and 3, 4 don't. So I wish they did, because we'd get great matchups for these games. But so we'll just go down the line. Penn State, Boise State at Penn State. I'm sorry, Boise State just doesn't have enough. Penn State's going to move on. All right, Notre Dame, Arizona State. Again, I think Notre Dame's just a little bit more physical than Arizona State. Cold weather, advantage Notre Dame. They move on. We get a rematch of the national title game last year. Oregon, Georgia, I think is a phenomenal game. Straight power. Again, this one doesn't matter. This is a cold weather team that's going to warm weather, so the weather is not going to be a factor, really. Battle of unknown quarterbacks, really. Gunnar Stockton's playing this year. Dante Moore of Oregon. I think Georgia's just a little bit more talented, so I'm going with them moving forward. And then Alabama, Nebraska. Again, I joke about Alabama having to go to the cornfields of Lincoln, Nebraska to play a football game, but Alabama's a little bit more more talented. They're way more talented. I would take Alabama over Nebraska. Texas, Penn State. I would like to pick Penn State here. Unfortunately, James Franklin has never won a big game in his life. And I think if you go down the line, I don't know exactly where the location. Let's see. Where are the locations? Locations of the CFP playoff quarterfinals. So the way they do it is each of the top seed gets to pick. So you have the New York Six. So you would have Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Cotton Bowl, and Orange Bowl. So more than likely of the two, I would probably assume Ohio State would want to take the Rose Bowl. So Ohio State, Notre Dame would be at the Rose Bowl. Then the 2 seed Clemson would get the pick, which more than likely they would probably pick. See, I don't know if they would want to play Sugar Bowl in New Orleans or the Orange Bowl in Miami. Probably Orange Bowl in Miami.
Orange Bowl, I would say.
So say they go to the Orange Bowl, LSU gets to pick. So if they take the Orange Bowl, they're going to take the home game Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. And then that leaves Texas and Penn State as Texas home game Cotton Bowl in Dallas. So Texas moves on. Ohio State, Notre Dame. Ohio State, just like last year in the national championship game, a little bit too much for them. They're going to move forward. Georgia, LSU. Again, I think playing in New Orleans does help LSU a lot because fans don't have to travel as far. And I think LSU is really good this year. They move on. Clemson, Alabama. Clemson, I do think is better than Alabama this year by I don't want to say a lot, but it is more.
Yeah, they're talented.
I would take Clemson. So now the Final Four, I just want to state for people, the Final Four we're going to see week 1, both games for Final Four. You're going to see Texas, Ohio State on next Saturday, and you're going to see LSU, Clemson next Saturday. So get ready, folks, because next week is a preview of your CFP semifinals, according to me.
According to Klucas.
So I'll start off on the right side. LSU, Clemson will be, as it will be on Saturday, will be a great game.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, as big on LSU as I am this year, Clemson just has more talent on defense to be able to make a stop or two to keep it. I have Clemson advancing to the national title game. Ohio State, Texas. Listen, Buckeyes by 90. No, but in all seriousness, great game because now by this point, we're kind of in an unknown right now going in the next week of both Julian Sayin and Arch Manning. We've seen Arch Manning play, but it's not been a whole lot.
Yeah.
So we've got two pretty much unknowns. The only thing we know going in is that for Ohio State, Texas does have a lot coming back this year. So they have a loaded roster, and Ohio State has the 2 best players in the country on their team. Now, by this point, we're going to know how good Arch Manning is, how good Julian Sayin is, and they're going to be at the peak of, how, we know everything, how good. So this is going to be an all-time matchup. And just like last year, Ohio State's going to punch their ticket to the national title game with a win over Texas. And then we get a Clemson, Ohio State, which I really had so much trouble picking because I'm big on this Clemson team this year, as much as I'm not a fan of Dabo. But I am really big on this Clemson team because they have a lot of NFL talent on this team, from Peter Woods to TJ Parker on the defensive side to Cade Klubnik, who's a Heisman potential and a potential maybe even number 1 draft pick as a quarterback next year. And then you add in Antonio Williams as a wide receiver. So I really had a whole lot of hard time picking this game, as weird as that sounds, for not just straight out picking Ohio State. But I wasn't going to pick against my boys.
I was like, yeah,
I'm not picking against my boys. I've got Ohio State winning. And this isn't just a fandom thing. Ohio State does have a legitimate chance to run this back-to-back. So this isn't me being delusional and just saying, yeah, they're going to run it back. No, they have a real chance at doing this. And I truly do think they are, because I think people are going to be, I don't want to say shocked, but I mean, somewhat shocked to find out how good Julian Sayin is as a quarterback and how good these other defensive pieces, they lost, but the ones that were backing them up really are. And again, it also helps to have Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs on your team.
Yep, I agree.
So I've got Ohio State going back-to-back. That's my playoffs. Ohio State, Clemson, national championship.
Yeah. So based on based on your picks here, your 1 through 12s, I would agree with everything for your semifinals.
So you would go same semifinals?
Yeah, I would go same semifinals.
Okay.
I think Clemson beats LSU. But here's my thing here, buddy. I hate to tell you this.
There we go. So you would have Clemson. Well, that didn't go. Okay, let's just reload this again. You're picking Texas. I already know where you're going with this.
So here's my thing. I think Ohio State wins week 1. And I think I actually think Arch Manning is going to end up being pretty good this year.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I think Texas is going to be fine. This is a chance at revenge, and I think Texas gets revenge in this game. So I think I would say Texas beats this one.
Okay, so they beat Ohio State in the semifinal.
And then I would go Clemson.
Clemson winning the Natty?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's what I would pick. Yeah, I mean, the rest of it looks, I mean, it seems pretty self-explanatory. The only thing that I went back and forth on, there was two actually in the first round that I went back and forth on.
Can I guess what the two are?
Yeah.
My guess would be Nebraska, Alabama, and then Oregon, Georgia. So, okay, let's play this out then. If you picked Oregon and you picked Nebraska, those are the two.
Nothing changes.
Nothing else changes. You would still go LSU over Oregon and then Clemson over Nebraska. So that's how yours would look, basically.
Something like that.
Obviously not the full 12, but if we're just going off this, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, if I was going back and forth, that would be another way. With Dan Lanning going back to Georgia and the Gunnar Stockton could suck. So
and they don't have a very good backup option either.
No. Now, obviously, in that situation, if they make it to that point, you trust Kirby Smart.
Right. If you've made it to this point, Gunnar Stockton has been good enough to get you through.
But Dan Lanning is a great coach in his own right. And coming back to Georgia, that's going to be some, like you're saying, that story. It always seems like when you have that story like that, it always seems like the underdog really has a chance.
Yeah. I wanted to try to create some kind of storyline for my first round. So Joel Klatt, when he did his playoff, his storyline that he created, I think it was a 7-10 matchup. The 7-10 matchup was Notre Dame at 7, LSU at 10, and it was Brian Kelly having to go back to Notre Dame in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, that could be interesting too.
Yeah.
Now Bama and Nebraska, I only went back and forth on that because of the weather. Yeah, they are a much talented team, but that really does matter with the.
Yeah, and listen, Nebraska has a really good quarterback. Dylan Raiola is really good. Yeah, now he's very weird with his Patrick Mahomes cosplay. He wants to put on.
Fucking weird, dude. That's weird.
But it was funny at first. Like it's like a ha. He does kind of look like Mahomes. Like even like realistically, it kind of does look like Mahomes. But then the first time he did it, it's like ha. He's feeding into the internet trolls and memes and everything. But then he started doing it every week, and it's like, all right, buddy, you're weird.
Like you're not Patrick Mahomes, okay?
Come on, be your own person. But he is very good, and Dylan Raiola's got all the potential to be if the season goes like this, where Nebraska makes the playoffs this year, he'll probably go into 2026 as the favorite for the number 1 pick in 2027. But again, I just had Alabama's just a stacked team. The only thing we don't know for sure about Alabama is how well is Ty Simpson going to play at quarterback. And if he does not play well, is the true freshman Keelan Russell ready to step in and take over?
And Nick Saban does not walk through that door.
Nope. As Thomas Castanellis made it very clear, Nick Saban isn't coming to save you.
But yeah, I think this playoff this year, I think this whole season it's going to be a really fun season.
The straight seeding makes it so much better.
It does, yeah. It's going to be fun. The first round games will be a lot better, more fun to watch. Yeah, so we'll see.
All right, real quick before we sign off here, Doug. I know I didn't put this in the notes, but I just want to be real quick since we won't do a show before the games next week. Just wanted to do quick little predictions for everybody so y'all can see it. So here you go. These are my score predictions for next week for either mine and Doug's team or just nationally, like what we consider great games. Texas-Ohio State, I think, ends in a game-winning field goal by Ohio State. 27-24, I think, will be your final score in that one. Ohio State gets to win. I think Louisville just absolutely demolishes Eastern Kentucky, 56-7. I think Kentucky wins in a nail-biter against Toledo, 23-17.
I think it's a nail-biter?
Brother, the spread is only Kentucky 7.5.
Dang. What's the spread on the Louisville game?
Last I looked this morning, it was 40.5.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
But it may have changed by now. Alabama, Florida State. I do think that game will be a tad bit closer than people think, because I do think Florida State is just a little bit better than people are giving credit for, because they're just going off of last year. But I do think Alabama pulls away at the end, 30-17. This Syracuse-Tennessee game, I think, is also closer than people are going to give credit for. The battle of two ugly orange schools. But the spread is Tennessee 13.5, and I like Syracuse on the spread, and I think they're able to cover that. Yep. But I do think Tennessee does eventually win 27-23. LSU Clemson, I think, again, very close game, very good game. I think Clemson wins by a touchdown, 31-24. And then Notre Dame Miami, which will be on Sunday, not Saturday, I do think will be a relatively close game, but I think Notre Dame pulls away 33-24 to win at Miami.
What's the spread on the Clemson LSU game? Because I think that game could be a field goal. LSU is good this year. Yeah, pull up fan.
They are, which you were Clemson LSU is what you were wondering?
Yeah.
They are, it is Clemson favored 3.5.
That I think that is, I would say Clemson by a field goal.
Yeah, Clemson 3.5 is the favorite to win. So, but yeah, I mean, I have it a touchdown. So, I mean, one score, same thing.
No, that's gonna be a good game. Cool. There you have it, folks. Klucas' predictions.
So, hold on, I'm trying to see if this will pull up. Give me 1 second. Excellent. All right, these are the bets I put in for week 1 of college football. I might try to do this every week too, but that's a bet I put in for next week. So I got Nebraska money line on Thursday against Cincinnati. Again, I think Syracuse covers the spread at 13.5 on Saturday. I've got Ohio State on the spread, which is 2.5. Again, if they win by a field goal, I think I win by 3 or more. I just took Clemson money line against LSU, Utah money line against UCLA, and I think Notre Dame covers that 2.5 point spread against Miami. So
sweet.
So just wanted to throw that out there. So, but all right. I think that's all we got for today. So again, like, comment, subscribe, anything. It does not cost anything to click that little thumbs up button. So, or to just hit the subscribe button. So
I guess we'll see you in the next one.